ASMR. We're going to go back in time into ancient Rome. We have a strong gladiator here. So let's open up this book and see what's inside. I was inspired by my review to continue reading, so I went to the library and I found this really cool history book. I like how the table of contents have images next to them. Let's see if we can get to page 4, 6, 8, and maybe 10 and 8. 4. How Rome began. 6. Roman rulers. 8. The city of Rome. And 10. Conquering new lands. I'm very interested in this part. I love to know about daily life and what their homes are like. So let's get started. Make sure you're nice and cozy. Okay. Let's begin with how Rome began. So, around 3,000 years ago, a tribe of people called the Latins settled on the hills where Rome, Italy stands today. They had chosen a good place to live. From the top of the hills, they could easily see any enemies approaching. The Tiber River below supplied fresh water, and they could reach the sea by boat. Sorry, that's my dog in the background. Minnie's going a little wild today with the ducks. Soon, more villages developed nearby, and eventually they all joined together to form the city of Rome. The hills of Rome. Rome is said to be built on 7 hills. One of them, the Palatine Hill, was probably the site of the first Latin villages. Later, the emperors of Rome built their grand homes there. The word palace comes from the name of the Palatine Hill. Where was early Rome? Rome was on a fertile plain in Latium, a part of what is now Italy. To the north of Rome lived the Etruscans, and to the south lived a colony of Greek people. There were also smaller tribes of hill farmers, including the Sabines and the Samnites. So here we have Rome, France, known as Gaul back then, and Greece. Here you have a depiction of what the village might have looked like. As you can see, the farmers were situated next to the Tiber River. It says here, the Capitoline Hill. Below is the center of government in modern Rome. farmers used simple plows to prepare the land for planting. Early farmers grew grains, vegetables, and fruits. Etruscan warriors attacked many Roman villages. Let's learn about the Etruscan enemy. The early Romans learned a lot from their powerful neighbors. The Greeks taught them science, architecture, and the arts. The Etruscans introduced them to gladiators, chariot races, and wearing a toga. The Etruscans often attacked Rome, and by around 600 BC, the city was under Etruscan control. Historians believe that the last 3 kings of Rome were Etruscans. So let's learn about Roman rulers. The first rulers of Rome were Gaul kings, a group of men called senes or senators elected each king and advised him during his reign. According to some historians, there were 7 Roman kings in total, and the last 3 were Etruscans, although nobody is certain. The last king, Tarquinius II, was overthrown in around 510 BC, and Rome became a republic. Tarquin the Proud. Sorry, I'm still learning how to breathe properly. I think it's better than a few days ago when I first started this. King Tarquinius II was also known as Tarquinius Superbus, which means the proud. A Roman historian named Livy said that the king was very unpopular. Eventually, the people of Rome drove the whole royal family out of the city. Oh, you must be very unpopular to do that, or for that to happen. Paying the price. There were 300 members of the Senate, all men from the richest families who were known as patricians. Senators were expected to pay for things such as public buildings and entertaining people. Some of them spent so much money that they became bankrupt. Hot topics. Some Romans, such as Cicero, were great orators or public speakers. They could win support for their side of the argument by using their words alone. Debates in the Senate could become very heated. People power. People who were not patricians were known as plebeians. Some plebeians felt it was unfair that only patricians could be senators. In 494 BC, they threatened to leave Rome unless changes were made. So the Senate granted them their own council with tribunes to speak for them. Later, they gained the power of veto. Here we have a tribune could stop any official act by saying veto, meaning I forbid. These are the senators holding a debate in the Senate. And here we have senators usually wearing togas for formal occasions. beautiful map here. Such a pretty illustration. So let's learn about the city of Rome. At the heart of the Republic, and later the Empire, was the city of Rome itself. Its public buildings were designed to be both practical and pleasing to look at. For example, the Forum Romanum was used as a market and as a meeting place. It also had a platform for people to make public speeches. Many of ancient Rome's buildings, such as the Colosseum and the Pantheon, are still standing today. So here we have City in Flames. Let's read about this before we go into the illustration. Most city people lived in apartment buildings with fires for heating, so there were often outbreaks of fires. Once people accused Emperor Nero of starting a fire just so that he could build a huge palace in the space left behind. I heard that he was quite the unpopular emperor. Under the ground, beneath the many temples of Rome, were large vaults which some people used to keep their money safe. Burials were not allowed inside the city, so the early Christians dug catacombs under the ground just outside the city limits so that they could bury their dead. Okay, let's look at this map here. We have this large open theater of Marcellus, that's what it's called, the Tiber River. There's a bridge connecting the center of the city to the rest of I guess these are apartments. Right here we have Trajan's Forum, Basilica Julia. Quite frankly, I don't know what most of these are. Circus Maximus. That seems to be an arena. Temple of Venus in Rome. So it's a place of worship. Colosseum, where the gladiators fought. And this is Aqua Claudia. I guess this is their plumbing system. Here. The aqueducts, right? Oh, I'm so... My Roman history is so bad right now. It's been so long since I brushed up on this. Let's read about conquering new lands. The Roman Republic had enemies on all sides. Some of the Latin cities formed a league to help each other fight the mountain tribes, and Rome joined it. By around 400 BC, Rome had a great deal of land and was the strongest city in the league. Even though other tribes, such as the Gauls, regularly attacked Rome, the Republic continued to expand. And by 264 BC, the Romans controlled all of Italy. So we have the auxiliary troops. Their helmets and their mighty shields. The Roman army conquered many other lands and also recruited local soldiers from the armies that they had fought. These soldiers, called auxiliaries, were useful because they knew the area well. they defended Rome's new borders. This reminds me of oddly enough, this reminds me of a tactic that if you watch these apocalyptic movies with zombies, the survivors would often join other forces, or other groups would take them in because they're useful and because they have knowledge or skill set that can be used to increase their chances of survival. I don't know, it's very off topic, I'm sorry. Okay, we have here Hannibal is humbled. From 264 BC, the Roman army fought a series of wars with the Carthaginians from North Africa. In 218 BC, the Carthaginian general Hannibal invaded Italy with 35,000 men and more than 30 elephants. He won battle after battle, but the Romans finally defeated him in Zama. In 146 BC, Rome burned Carthage to the ground. Here we have the Battle of Zama, which was fought in 202 BC. Oh, poor elephants. It's strange, this is the first time that I'm hearing elephants being used in war as opposed to horses. This here, if you can see, is a Carthaginian archer. And we have the Roman legionaries fighting. Okay, let's read about how to build an empire. The Roman borders continued to expand. However, fights among Rome's leaders soon turned into civil war. In 49 BC, Julius Caesar took control of Rome, and in 44 BC, he became dictator for life. But soon he was murdered, and war broke out again. In 27 BC, Caesar's adopted son, Octavian, became the first Roman emperor and was given the name Augustus. Caesar on campaign. Julius Caesar was a brilliant politician and general. He fought many campaigns in Gaul and elsewhere from 58 BC to 49 BC, and he extended Rome's borders as far as the English Channel. New lands. When Hadrian became emperor in 117 AD, the empire was at its height. It controlled all the land shown in red. Wow, I never realized it expanded this much. So, there's Great Britain under Roman rule, Spain, Portugal, the entire body of France, Greece, and even Turkey, and here the northern coast of Africa, right here, and then Egypt as well. Hadrian's Wall, let's learn about this. The Romans conquered Great Britain in 43 AD. Later, Emperor Hadrian built a huge wall to help the army stop northern tribes from invading Great Britain. Some parts of the wall and its towers are still standing today. This kind of looks like the Great Wall of China. Hadrian's Wall is 73 miles long. Controlling the tribes. The Roman borders were constantly threatened by local tribes. Many of the tribes had so few weapons that they were unlikely to beat the mighty Roman army. However, they fought bravely and sometimes won astonishing victories. The Romans and local tribes usually fought on foot. Now, look at the different shields. It's incredible how they fought with barely any protection. somehow made it to army life. Rome's early army was made up of unpaid, untrained men. They were called to fight when they were needed, and most had to provide their own weapons. By the 2nd century BC, the army had become a highly trained professional force. Each man was paid and was given a set of weapons. When soldiers were not fighting, they spent most of their time training. Most were foot soldiers, but there were also soldiers on horseback, called the cavalry. The tortoise. When approaching an enemy, groups of Roman soldiers often formed a tortoise shape called a testudo. They held their shields over their heads and around the sides of the group. This formation helped protect them from any enemy missiles. That's a very smart tactic, except the legs. A legionary's weapons. Legionaries, or foot soldiers, used a short sword for stabbing and a javelin for throwing. Each soldier also carried a large shield and wore metal armor for protection. There's the metal helmet. That's the armor. Leather tunic is right here below the armor. I guess this is the shield. I'm not sure what this is. Looks like a ladle, but it's probably a weapon of some sort. Look at this. Wow. It's so majestic when everyone's coming together to fight. Okay, let's learn about military forts. In the early days of the empire, the Romans began to build permanent forts to protect their empire's borders. All the forts had the same plan, so when soldiers had to move from one fort to another, it was very easy to find their way around the new one. Salernum, a Roman military fort, was located in Chester, Great Britain. Yeah, you can see these are the walls. It's always located next to the river. It's smart. Javelins made of iron and wood here that this soldier is holding. Roman soldiers used shields made from wood and metal covered in leather. Wow, this is just a picture, but can you imagine how beautiful it must have been in person? And this is all handmade. That's unbelievable. Daily life in Rome, my favorite part. I think we should save this part for next time. Let me know if you enjoyed that, or if you prefer whispering or another type of topic. I really enjoyed this. Anyway, thank you for joining me tonight. I hope you have the coziest night of rest and sweet dreams. I'll see you in the next one.